Hi there, it's me, Nova, here with an all-new podcast where I talk about college, life after high school in general, and all sorts of personal thoughts that flicker through my mind. Just sit down, do some homework, relax with a cup of tea and chips and chocolate, or stare up at the ceiling while we contemplate shit together. Here's some fish to fry, the podcast. Okay, so we've all been there, and I'm just gonna say it. I think that infatuation sucks. Especially with someone like the guy I think I may have feelings for. I say think because it could honestly be the idea of him that gets me high rather than the actual person he really is. But I won't figure that out because one, I'm not sure if I'm brave enough to, and two, not like he'd give me the chance to find out anyways. We haven't met up since high school, with different colleges now and such, but we've chatted via text, I guess. So there's that whole, questioning of do I still think about him because of the person he was I met then, or do I still think of him as a better sort of someone else, an idealized guy or some shit? Because I'm sure the idea of a person is perfected and very unrealistically appealing. I know he's flawed, and so I fear the idea of liking him might not be the case here. I really enjoy talking to him though, and so I won't really complain too much on the confusion or uncertainties of sorts I may experience trying to figure him out. The other day, he told me that he's finally interested in looking into dating again. Wanting to get to know some pretty girls on his campus. I wish him the best of luck, though I wish I could be a candidate, if I'm honest. But given the chance, I'm sure I'd fuck it all up and ruin a good friendship anyways. I'd like to be pissed about how not only him, but humans typically in general get attracted to someone that's easy and kind to the eyes. In other words, pretty, handsome, and everything in between with an aesthetic emphasis. I'm kind of guilty when it comes to that, if I'm being honest. Stunned by those pretty eyes, genuine smile here and there when I could catch it. And then getting to know him, of course, made it even far more attractive. Does anybody else feel that a physical attractiveness of a person is either accentuated or deteriorated by getting to know them? I mean, if you're beautiful bodied, I think it's even more so pretty if you're wonderful as a person, flaws and all, with a certain sense of morality I could personally tolerate. However, if you're too shitty of a person, by all means, I find that all your beauty and physicality vanishes entirely. Pretty smile can start looking superficial, a shine in the eyes look duller, lackluster, and it just doesn't seem like you're someone I want to spend time with personally. To clarify, whenever I think someone's unworthy of my time, it's not as a means of saying they're unworthy as a person. It's just, they're not really compatible to me, be it romantically or platonically. And so I'd let them know straight on, perhaps a bit too bluntly, and well, I guess that made me an asshole. I remember back in high school, I've had a few different people tell me that. A girl once told me, you're an asshole, but at least you're honest about it. I'm not exactly sure how to feel about that. Because it doesn't make me a better person, I think. Or maybe it does, considering the aspect of good old high schoolers' indecency of lies, rumors, all that jazz. So maybe I get somewhat of a pat on the back there. Still though, being an asshole is something I hope I've somewhat changed by now that I'm in college. My very first college semester is almost over for me, and I've been reflecting a lot on it. I haven't ran into shitty friendships at all, and so I think I've done better with judgment in navigating the social game this time around. Shits from high school and shit from my past self was a lot to learn from, and those are long stories of their own that I might tell you one day. Haven't been in a relationship for a while, romantically or as a friends with benefits sort of deal. Honestly, it doesn't bother me crazy or anything, and I know I'm fine on my own. Though simultaneously, I'd like to find a guy or gal to bond over romantically with all its associated benefits. I mean, I'm saying all this as something I'd like to find eventually, maybe not exactly right now. I'm not sure. I guess finding the right person just hasn't happened yet. If I'm being honest, I've been in a relationship and such before, but I've never been in love. Looking back, I think I was just bored. Bad on my part, I'll admit, though I don't feel too horribly. The asshole dumped me over the phone, got with someone else 2 minutes later, and then found another person, and the two stalked me throughout my last year or two of high school. I had to get a temporary social contract on the creepy bastards. Another long story, but yeah. So, as I was saying, I've been better. socially once I left high school. The social atmosphere for me personally has changed. It feels like I've met more people with a level of maturity I could stand by. It's kind of high school round two to most people, but I think I only feel that way really when I consider the class and coursework. In classes I've taken so far, it seems relatively familiar. I thought once I left high school I wouldn't understand college courses. I thought tests would be written in some sort of code or dead language I couldn't decipher. But in all honesty, it's pretty much what I've done back in high school. It's not all what teachers have made it out to be. Further elaborating, it's kind of bullshit to be told we're preparing you for college back in high school. Same for middle schoolers told that about high school, and yeah, you get the gist. Because from my experience, things aren't always what we planned or make them out to be, which you could consider with something as broad as the pandemic going on. But what I'm getting at is that times are always changing. The only consistency in being alive is just the constancy of pure fluctuations. I've realized this recently while taking my condensed literature course. From what I understand, the 5-paragraph essay structure is bullshit you're ingrained to apply over and over since what? Middle school maybe? But college is so different. High school has told me and those around me that writing ideas and all is so confined and restricted in the process, which really isn't true at all in a college setting. In college, the essays actually throw you into a new fucking plane of surprise. You're not going to need to regurgitate information like high school has taught you. If anything, it's highly discouraged. My best friend goes to a college with an anthropology course that would take away points, even, if you choose to directly quote a source. What stands out to me the most about college essay writing is the semi-formality, the expression of personal opinions formulated with given information, and explanation of personal experience pertaining to given topics. College essays, I feel, are vastly different to what high school tells you they'd be. College essays don't want regurgitation, they want evaluation. They want to see you formulate ideas supported by research and not present them with simply matter-of-fact, pain-in-the-ass verbatim. When I first learned all of this, I was in shock, honestly. I look back and I think, man, did my opinions really matter growing up if I couldn't really express them that much? I mean, sure, there's argumentative essays, but, they're giving you the prompt already and you have to choose a side, rather than in college, you could possibly have prompts that tell you a topic, sure, but you get to choose exactly your take on, what you're given. And I feel like, in a way, it's more respected to the writer, I feel like I wasn't given that freedom back then. And that's kind of unfair that we don't get to exercise our voices as much as we should have writing back throughout middle school and high school and, even some of elementary school. I mean, sure, elementary school, I think, they allow some creative writing, but I'm talking about essays and structures and everything we've been taught pertaining to that. It kind of sucks looking back, but I think, maybe they did it as a means of prepping us for an idea of what to start with, like a basis, I guess you could say. Like, here's the 5-paragraph structure. This is what you could do. However, they never told us it's something that you could do. It's more of you had to stick to it. It's something that we were told was obligatory, and that if we strayed from it at all, we would fail to express ideas that are comprehensible and good, I mean, beyond writing, I think another thing about changing from middle school to high school into college is just the way you're treated by professors. And yes, they're called professors and not just teachers. It's kind of a fun adjustment, like, ooh, new label. But I think I was really surprised when I first asked if I could use the bathroom, and I got a strange look from a professor, and then they realized that it was a course for freshmen, and they're like, yeah, you don't need to ask us. And I'm like, huh? And yeah, apparently you don't need to interrupt the class by raising your hand and asking if you could use the bathroom. And that's so weird. There's not even a sign out sheet. There's no bathroom pass. You just go. That's weird. Like, wow, I'm allowed to do whatever I need to for my, personal needs, like just physical needs. And then, yeah, not the entire class has to know about it, or the teacher doesn't have to be so, uptight about whether I leave the room or not. That's really nice. So, veering back into the topic on my whole social game, or lack thereof, and kind of a shitty past from high school, not everybody sucks, is something that I learned. And surprisingly, I learned that back in high school. I've met some pretty cool teachers, but I've also met some really cool friends that I didn't expect to make at all. In the sense that I didn't expect them to be so genuine and, they actually care about me. Not meaning to sound pessimistic or anything, trust me. If anything, finding a best friend in high school was the last thing I thought would be possible for me, or, in general. I feel like the whole idea of this friendship with someone so close is always fabricated and false because of how the media portrays it. But I realized best friendship is really defined, or any relationship is defined by every individual. Everybody has different ways of expressing themselves and loving somebody, be it platonically or romantically. And, I think that's super cool that I got to find someone. I'm going to call him Birdie in this podcast for the sake of his privacy. And I think I started hanging out with him back in sophomore year. And it's wild because now we're still, we meet up with each other every now and then. We go to different colleges. His campus is like out of town, an hour away. But whenever I do get to see him, I always think, man, it's been years and this weirdo has still stuck around me. We're like siblings at this point, and it's tons of fun. We always get to just goof off and insult each other and talk about boys, or he's literally the best. He's like a big brother to me, the way he's always looked out for me. Something that I learned specifically from this friendship I have with him, by the way, is, back to the whole thing about media and fabrication of best friendship. The reason why I felt like it was so unattainable is because of how poorly the media can portray best friendship, or just friendship in general, I think that the way the media portrays it is the whole glorified, having each other's back constantly and always being able to be there for one another, and always, just being on good terms, never fighting, never having a fight at all. But that's definitely not true. And I think a lot of immaturity from middle schoolers and high schoolers, just growing up from kid to teenager, came from that expectation of, if it's not perfect, it wasn't meant to happen. That's so fucked. It's wrong. I believe, from my experience, that best friendship comes from having fights, like, sometimes, but being able to talk it out and bounce back stronger from it, and not make that mistake over and over again. I learned that with Birdie first fight we've ever had, I was shocked when he came back to talk to me after giving me time to recover emotionally. And the way he was just so patient about it and understanding, coming up to me in the hallways and just saying, "Hey, are you ready to talk?" And I just turned to him and I'm like, "Ready to talk? Like, what the hell? Who even does that nowadays?" Because from my experience with others, they always just bailed. One fuck up and that's it, you're out. Like, you're not even a human being. It's like, oh, well, there goes your shot. It's so weird. And when I realized that there are actual, genuine people out there looking for a real relationship, be it romantically or platonically or whatever, that was like the coolest thing to discover for me. So yeah, I'm not saying that a good friendship means that you fight all the time but still talk to each other. I'm saying that a good friendship can have fights, but you're able to develop and cultivate the friendship further because of those fights, and you guys lean on each other to grow as people. That's what I really believe. Another thing that I'd like to say is that the whole trope in movies or books or whatever, this is seen in both romantic and platonic relationships, is that the whole "I can't live without you" sort of deal, or "I think I would just die without you by my side," is just, I feel, is so unhealthy. My gosh. Because with me and Birdie, it's never like that. Every time he lets me depend on him, it was only to push me towards being independent. For me, I couldn't understand how to express myself and cry when, gosh, I didn't have anybody to really cry to, but he lent me his shoulders when I needed them to just lean on. Like, fuck, I think that was really cool. And then, giving me the time to talk to my therapist and figure out my own coping mechanisms, including writing and all sorts of various, like, running around and dancing in the room, or whatever. Just, it was really cool, and I'm so thankful for that. Funny thing about all of this is I don't think Birdie realizes the impact he's made on me. And honestly, like I said, I write a ton of entries in my phone, and I could ramble on and on about all my internal thoughts and everything I've ever felt about people, about experiences and events, and hell, I might read out some of them on some podcast episodes eventually. But really, I've written short stories and ideas and just feelings pertaining to this friendship with Birdie, and I don't think he realizes how much of an impact he's really made on me. And that's wild. And I say this because, 2 visits ago, in his dorm room, he turned to me and said that he has this irrational fear of being replaced. First of all, he knows it's irrational. We both know it's irrational, but it's an understandable, normal thought, by the way. The idea of somebody you really love and care about replacing you with somebody else. And in all honesty, it's just not possible to replace a person. I don't think so. Because, sure, he's my best friend. I could easily, well, not easily, but I could, potentially find another best friend. But it wouldn't be the same. It could never be the same. What you have with one person will never be the same with somebody else. And my friendship with him and him as a person overall, that's those two things, the friendship and the person that I'm friends with, I think those are the last things that could be replaced ever when it comes to him. Like, I can't fathom, replacing anybody, but especially him. He'd be the last that I would consider replaceable, if it's even possible to ever replace someone. The thing that really sucks about having someone you really care about is when time changes things and they end up moving out of town and you can't see each other as much as you used to. It hurts. It hurts like hell. And I know it's a fear that a lot of people have when they leave high school. Like, leaving the whole, just leaving friends behind that you were used to having around. That hurts. It's scary. I'll admit, it is scary. And I'm still experiencing it. Not necessarily losing friends, but losing this closeness to my friends. Be it in proximity physically or, just being close emotionally. And I don't think I've reached a point where I've lost emotional or, fun connections with the friends I really care about right now. I think it just really hurts to not be around them physically as much as I used to. I honestly have spent hours and hours over time crying. God, not hours all in one day, but an hour here and there, every now and then, just crying and missing my best friend. So you can see why it's really ironic that he'd fear being replaced. Because, gosh, I miss him so much, more than I'd like to admit. I really miss him. And, it's weird. I wish that was more normalized, that it's okay to cry and have emotions if you feel so passionately and, intensely about someone at all. Just let yourself cry it out if you miss them. It's okay. And yes, it could be platonic. Something that I really dislike is when people, numerous, people, I'm saying, either a friend here and there or even my own mother has told me, do you think you're in love with your best friend? That's not the case. Trust me. I literally see him as a brother, and he sees me as a little sister. We've talked about this over and over. It's just, I love him like a little sister. I'm like a little sister to him, and he's it's just a sibling thing. And gosh, I wish that was more normalized. The whole oh, you must be so in love with this person that you can't, focus right now. You cry and you miss them, and it's why can't I miss my best friend? Why can't I miss a friend, period? Why do I have to cry and, be so upset over somebody and supposedly they have to be a romantic, person to me? Because that's not true. I think I've missed friendships more than, being in love, or, if I've ever been in love. I've missed that more than I've missed, I've just, gosh, I can't get my words out right now. But yeah, I genuinely, I don't think I get upset by rejection with romantic infatuation or sexual attraction. I am more emotionally driven by my platonic friendships. If anything, I know this differs upon many people, but I feel breakups in a friendship hurt way more than breakups in a romantic relationship. Because, it's a different kind of bond. But yes, I can also see how some people might feel that romantic relationships feel more painful to lose. Though I hope we can all agree that I don't think one is more significant than the other. I don't like the term more than friends. I never really liked it, if I'm honest. I think that, the whole idea of calling a romantic relationship more than friends, it kind of, it puts down friendship in a way. Putting down platonic relationships and saying that they're less than romantic, it's just, why? Why would you do that? I think friendships are so valuable. Good, genuine, real friendships. My gosh. Those are so hard to come by nowadays. There's so much superficial shit in the media, be it Instagram or, whatever apps, whatever social media platforms you're on. You know what I'm talking about. There's so much out there that people are hiding, and, we all just want to be loved, I think. Or we all just want to be, it's either be loved or be feared, or just having power in some sort of way emotionally towards others. And I feel like it's so hard to pick out the people in the crowd who aren't exactly like that. People who, sure, want some form of emotional power, but it comes from themselves and not from, emotionally manipulating somebody else and having this weird sort of superiority complex when it comes to followers and views. And, I don't know. Yeah. So, a fun event that recently happened in my state was the Shaky Knees 2021 Music Festival. And I, of course, went with Birdie. Funny thing is, when we first hung out, Birdie and I, it was in my sophomore year, our sophomore year of high school, and it was in Latin class when I first decided to ask him, hey, do you want to hang out? And typically you would ask someone, in a new friendship, to go someplace casual, go to, like, maybe a park or the mall or a local cafe, but I just straight up asked him, hey, I don't really know anybody who wants to go to the Tessa Violet concert coming up. Would you be down to go with me? And strangely enough, this weirdo just said, yeah, sure. And we've never talked before then, by the way. I've seen him around since middle school, because in orchestra in middle school, I was such an obnoxious violin player, but he was like the cool cellist with these rainbow crocheted fingerless gloves that I was so envious and petty about as a middle schooler, and that's why I didn't talk to him beforehand, not gonna lie. But obviously things changed, and sophomore year I ended up going, hey, you seem cool, you like music, I like music, let's go for it. And yeah, so attending Shaky Knees 2021, this year it was wild for both of us, because it was kind of a whole realization of, man, we're still concert buddies. And in fact, we actually, within the span of 12 hours, we fucking, like, stacked up points and, like, list on the whole concert thing. Like, we went to, 7 maybe different concerts within one day. That was wild. Like, we've seen the Aubreys, the Backseat Lovers, Modest Mouse, Phoebe Bridgers, and, like, the Strokes even. Like, oh my gosh, it kept going on, and, like, there was just so much fun shit going on there. Like, minus this, typical smell of weed that some people snuck in. Oh, that's funny, by the way. So they check your bags, right? When you pay to go in, prior to even showing up to the event, you get information on what to do and not to do. You can bring certain bags, and, you can't have weapons, like, even for self-defense or whatever. And so I was just thinking, man, how do people exactly sneak in the gross drugs? I'm not going to judge anybody who does drugs, by the way. I'm just saying I can't personally handle the smell of certain ones, like weed and stuff. I just don't like the smell. But literally, we were at the little entrance to, get checked and, everything. And some girl who went in before us in the line she, they checked her body and everything. She didn't have anything on her. She didn't have a bag on her. And she just went in through. But then she ran alongside the fence near the entrance. And somebody tossed the bag of what I think is probably marijuana and other goodies that lots of people, like to have over the fence. Yeah, they tossed a bag of drugs, I think, over the fence, and she just ran with it. And I was like, holy shit. So that's how people have done it. Probably. I'm guessing. I mean, I'm sure there's other weird ways people hide stuff, I'm sure. But, like, gosh, that was kind of funny. Like, literally, Birdie and I shared a look, and we're like, oh gosh. She really just snuck something over the fence. That's kind of funny. Not saying I approve. Not saying that I, am encouraging any illegal stuff. Don't do illegal stuff, people. Not just like kids, like teens, kids, adults. Just don't do illegal stuff. I mean, if you can like help it. I know some people have tendencies, but you know what I mean. Like it's better for you, and like it's less stressful, I think, instead of having to do the whole sneak about sort of deal. Anyways, on to talking about shaky knees. My gosh. Okay, so in all honesty, I've listened to certain songs of some of the people playing there, but I didn't, realize, how fucking sick and cool and awesome, like, all these people were who were performing. And, like, oh my gosh. Like, one moment, I'm, like, sobbing my eyes out to Phoebe Bridgers. Next thing I know, I'm, like, jumping up and down, like, just wanting to go into the mosh pit for the Strokes. It's insane. And thing is, I've heard of Phoebe Bridgers and some of her stuff, but I didn't realize, I knew her voice was so soft and pretty, but in person, my gosh, I did not realize that she could get so emotional. Like, not necessarily her breaking down or anything, but gosh, people in the crowd, including me, we fucking sobbed our eyes out. Like, oh my gosh, her voice, something about how soft it is and how genuine her delivery on the lyrics are, and just the instrumental swelling alongside her vocals was so impactful. I don't think I've ever cried before during a musical performance, like, and one in person, mind you. Like, it was just, oh my gosh, this woman is powerful. I've never ever cried like that before for any sort of musical performance. And you bet your ass I definitely added more of her stuff on my Spotify after that. I just, I couldn't fathom all of that. Like, I remember Birdie turning to me at some point during one of her songs, and he just sees a tear roll down my eye in the dark, of the whole, like, scenery and, like, the bright lights from the stage, and he just sees the tear glistening down my face. It's so funny. Like, he's like, oh my gosh, you're such a bitch. And I'm like, just shut up. But, like, damn, it was funny. Like, it was so good. And I know for a fact that other people cried because I've seen some people wipe tears, and heck, even at this really cool booth of artwork, by this Tennessee graphic designer, there was this one girl who was rocking this dark lipstick, and I had to tell her, of course, right? Because, gosh, it was fucking awesome. And then she of course, was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And then she motions up to her eyes, and she's like, yeah, if you're wondering why my makeup's really smudgy around the eyes, you can thank Phoebe Bridgers. And I was just like, wow. And she's like, yeah, I blame this on her. And I'm like, you know what? Understandable. And she's like, gosh, I couldn't stop crying. Like, that's so cool. Imagine, not only artists like Phoebe Bridgers and then, the Strokes being so energetic, and then even the graphic designer with his cool booth. By the way, I bought some of, his stuff because I love supporting artists, and I love, like, his artwork. He had some really sick posters, and I think I got the last bandana from his booth, and, you know, he had all these fun sticker packs, and it was just awesome. I wish that I could possibly be somebody someday, like that graphic designer with this crazy cool booth, to Phoebe Bridgers getting a whole crowd emotional, to the Strokes sending fucking, like, hardcore vibrations from, like, literally the stage, from the ground, and feeling it all the way up through your body and to your head and your heart and your, like, entire soul and being. I hope that I could do that for somebody someday. Um, I don't know, anything that I could create. I would love to be somebody who touches someone else out there like that. That would be so cool. And, you know, being in that festival made me just, I wanted to live even more. I wanted to be more passionate, more fierce, more ferociously, like, invested in everything that I enjoy doing, be it writing, like, creatively, or journal entries, or, like, living in a moment, like, enjoying the fucking afternoon lighting to the golden hour at 7 o'clock, or, you know, like, just munching down on a good Starbucks sandwich, or sipping pumpkin spice. Like, I want to look at friends and see how their eyes wrinkle when they smile, and, you know, I want to hear the way they laugh, and, like, just the different rhythms and pitches of different laughters, and I want to experience so much more, and hopefully one day give back to somebody else, because that is the coolest fucking shit ever. You know, the thing about creating, just creative productivity in general, is something that I've always been trying to pinpoint in different aspects. Like, how exactly do you reach someone out there? And something that the guy I may or may not still be infatuated by has told me is that you gotta really create for yourself first before you can reach somebody else out there. And I thought about it, and I feel like my most successful artworks that I've entered in competitions and gotten somewhere with them, and, you know, even, like, a writing piece I turned in, you know, senior year, and, you know, other stuff as well, I feel like they've all done really well in comparison to the ones that haven't done really well of mine. I feel that they are successful because I was honest with myself. A story I turned in during my senior year of high school was about my experience at a mental hospital a few years prior, and talking about people I've seen suffering and the emotions there and everything, and just being upfront, telling it as it is, and, you know, really writing it more for myself than for the actual competition, and writing it more for myself before judges and anybody else. You can't lose when you really do something for yourself. I don't think. Like, when, you know, in terms of creating, I think that if you could really write something for you, or create something in general, in any sort of way for you, that's when people start to find themselves in your work. Because, believe it or not, people can really relate to truth that you find in yourself that's very human and very, you know, vulnerable. I think that anything that I've really enjoyed from somebody else, they've had to have been honest with themselves. They had to have belief in what they do, that they could possibly reach someone else out there, sure, but, like, belief in themselves that this is how I feel, this is what I want to convey in this moment, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I want, you know? And I haven't really thought about it too much until lately at that festival, and then talking with the guy I may or may not like still, and, He creates music, by the way, and, I told him that his songs have actually helped me whenever I'm upset. Just listening to them makes me forget why I was ever, arguing with my mom about something, or, I was just trying to blow off steam by taking a walk, and just, his cool riffs and instrumental and lyrics I genuinely really liked. Even if he might not be the greatest vocalist in the world, I mean, I still think that it's really cool. And, yeah, I just, I realized he was talking from his own experience, that he feels writing for himself really helped him, you know, just put something out there in general. And yeah. So I think it's about time that I wrap up episode 1 of Fish to Fry the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I decided to start this whole deal because, well, of everything I mentioned in this episode. Just wanting to talk about how life could be after high school, and, my experiences with romance or lack thereof, and infatuation, and ideas about friendships, and, just being creativity in general. I'd love to explore it more, and this podcast could potentially be an outlet to express everything I'm thinking, and, just talk about whatever. And yeah, exploring that creativity, in fact, by just sharing ideas with you. So I hope that whatever time it is for you, morning, afternoon, night, I hope you're having a wonderful time, and maybe I'll see you again soon.